So the next lecture is on it's a very important topic. Every time we face patients coming, and then even the doctors are facing this issues. It's von Willebrand's disease. How do you manage menorrhagia and pregnancy? Now that we have factors and patients are also leading the lecture, they're reaching adulthood and there are pregnancy also. We have got many patients who is pregnant and VWD. So we have Dr. Shashikant Apte sir. He is the head and Department of Hematology and Bone Marrow Transplantation, Sahyadri Hospital, Sahyadri Specialty Hospital, Pune, and is also Vice President Medical HFI now. And sir, over to you, sir.
Thank you, Chandrakala. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I thought you are taking some kind of conspiracy against me because it's one of the most difficult topics. It's a real difficult topic, but yes,
Very important topic.
very important and very difficult topic.
Yes.
So I thank Chandrakala and Farah for giving me this topic because I had to read it again. I had to try to make out something to talk for 20, but it's a very, very important topic and most nightmare to manage these patients. I'll just share the data. This is the NHR 2020 data. We have only 812 von Willebrand disease patients registered in the registry as compared to the hemophilia A and hemophilia B patients. But we must understand that von Willebrand disease is the commonest congenital bleeding disorder. And many times, type 1 von Willebrand disease is missed, and the child who when attends menarche, the bleeding doesn't stop. Lot of time is delayed by the gynecologist, not knowing that this could be type 1 von Willebrand, which is presenting as a menorrhagia at the time of menarche. Menstrual phenomena is a physiological hemorrhage, which gets complicated due to congenital bleeding. And we have to pull out these people at least for 3 to 4 decades of their life and not to go into shock or not to land up in major bleeding complications. And carrying von Willebrand, especially type 3 patient through pregnancy and delivery is a challenge. I'll just quickly go through. We have to, once we make a diagnosis of probable von Willebrand, we must try to identify what category of von Willebrand disease it fits in, because the guidelines of management options are different. And there are 10 to 12 labs in the country now very regularly doing von Willebrand studies. We are not doing multiple analysis and PFA 100 tests, but other tests are done in our institute. KEM Mumbai is doing it, Vellore is doing it, Bangalore, St. John's is doing it. But we have to have a correct diagnosis and a subtype of von Willebrand disease. And we know that these are the basic subtypes now which have been understood for von Willebrand disease, which is quantitative deficiency and qualitative deficiency. Majority of our patients, diagnosed patients, are type 3 patients. Majority of the times, type 1 patient may be missed, which has a partial quantitative deficiency, and type 3 has a virtual complete deficiency of von Willebrand. And then there are type 2, which is divided into A, B, M, and N, which can be deciphered in majority of the labs if they are doing regular von Willebrand management. So first and foremost, we have to once identify the patient with von Willebrand disease, we have to apply the I stage BAT score and split them into mild, moderate, and severe. Because some of the von Willebrand disease patient will only have menorrhagia, whereas some of the patients will have major bleeding from nose, GI tract, urinary tract, skin ecchymosis, or even IC bleeds. And depending on the primary severity of a category of von Willebrand disease, we have to add the menstrual bleed and management of menstruation in the given lady. We have a lot of treatment options for von Willebrand menorrhagia. Now factor concentrates are available. There are plasma-derived products, and now we have recombinant von Willebrand factor available. Desmopressin is available. Tranexamic acid has remained the cornerstone in the management of this therapy, or management of menorrhagia. And hormonal preparations, electroablations, intrauterine devices, and with hormones. And obviously, the last resort is hysterectomy. When Farah and Chandrakala asked me, when I started looking at it, luckily in January 2021, ASH, ISTH, NHF, and WFH came out with the guidelines for management of von Willebrand disease. And it's an excellent article excellent document to have with it. And my majority of the slides I have prepared from this document. World Federation has prepared the guidelines on management of hemophilia, and similar effort has been done by ISTH and WFH to come out with these guidelines. So there are two types of recommendations that they have compared. That is a strong recommendation, and there, wherever it's a strong recommendation, the wording uses panel recommends. And when it's a conditional recommendation, it says that the panel suggests. So these interpretations of strong and conditional recommendations have four perspectives: a patient perspective, clinician perspective, policymaker perspective, and researchers. And I won't go into the details, but it's a very interesting article to read and try to understand how the guidelines are prepared. So coming to the first recommendation is prophylaxis. Today, everybody talks of prophylaxis in congenital bleeding disorder. Definitely, they say all type 3 von Willebrand patients with severe and frequent bleeds, the panel suggests using a long-term prophylaxis rather than no prophylaxis. In our country, we have recently started prophylaxis for factor VIII and factor IX deficiencies. I don't know whether any patient is on any patient is on regular prophylaxis for von Willebrand disease. But if you have to prophylax von Willebrand disease, the dose recommended is 40 to 80 Rieckhoff activity units per kg per week. You can give it as 2 split dosages. Even single dose has been shown to be effective in reducing the total number of bleeds. And definitely the amount of bleed in person who has attained menarche has definitely come down. So people are recommending you can have on-demand factor at this dose during the period of menses, and you may not go on a full-fledged prophylaxis. And the dose is same for plasma-derived or recombinant von Willebrand factor. Then second major drug is desmopressin challenge or a trial. And they have very clear-cut guidelines that if the primary von Willebrand level is less than 30%, it is very important to give a trial of desmopressin rather than straightway using it in the setting of acute major bleed. If it is more than 30%, there is no need to give the trial because it is assumed that if your von Willebrand baseline levels are above 30%, irrespective of your blood group, if you give a desmopressin challenge, they will respond. And that also becomes a good option for patients with von Willebrand disease who are going to get cyclical menorrhagia, and they can be ready with the use of desmopressin in the setting of menorrhagia. And dose of desmopressin is 0.03 microgram per kg given over 30 to 60 minutes. But it has to be supported with saline infusion. There are certain remarks regarding desmopressin, and care has to be taken in all the patients. Desmopressin is contraindicated in type 3 von Willebrand disease because there is a complete absence of the factors. Many patients with type 2 von Willebrand disease do not respond to desmopressin and they require other modes of treatment. But desmopressin trial in this setting may be helpful to confirm and may help in some of the type 2 von Willebrand patients. Adult patients with type 1 von Willebrand disease where factor levels are more than 30 IU per DL at baseline can be taken as desmopressin responsive, and they can be given desmopressin in each cycle, each menstrual cycle. And they can develop a refractoriness, and there could be a period where the desmopressin may not work and you will have to add other things. Patient with type 1 von Willebrand disease less than 30 units may not respond to desmopressin, and you may have to keep the other products available, especially the factor. And hyponatremia management is very crucial, and saline support is required. There are definite contraindications for desmopressin. That is type 2B von Willebrand disease, coronary artery disease, any patient who has had a stroke or a seizure disorder, it should be avoided. Type 1 von Willebrand disease, for surgical situation, desmopressin should not be used. If pregnancy has preeclampsia or is going to receive oxytocin drug like Pitocin or has multiple pregnancies, there is a strong contraindication for desmopressin, and desmopressin should not be used as it can worsen the life or can cause issues, especially in the setting of pregnancy. When there is a heavy menstrual bleeding, there is a strong recommendation to use hormonal therapy with tranexamic acid over desmopressin. Because strong menstrual bleeding requiring blood transfusions, we have to consider two situations: that the lady doesn't want to conceive, or she has completed family, or she wants to conceive. So when the lady doesn't want to conceive, hormonal therapy becomes the easiest mode. But sometimes we had a couple of patients that they lose control over hormonal therapies, and we had to do electroablation, uterine artery embolization, and ultimately one 19-year-old girl, we ended up doing hysterectomy because she virtually died 4 or 5 times because of massive menstrual bleed, was brought in shock, was on ventilator twice, and everything else had failed. We had done everything. In heavy menstrual bleeding, the regular use of tranexamic acid, 25 milligram per kg into 3 times a day for at least 7 to 8 days, has definitely shown the benefit in these patients. On demand, if you use tranexamic acid, a person is on hormonal therapy and still bleeds, we can use 20 units of 1 milligram Bikoff assay factor 1 per kg once a week till the bleeding stops. So the patient may require product over 4 to 5 days, but when it has been used in this fashion, there is around 3 to 4% incidence of developing inhibitor to the von Willebrand factor, and it can create an issue. Because managing von Willebrand factor with inhibitors, we don't have great experience. We do not see many patients, but you may land up with this situation because it's an intermittent exposure to the product. And patient will definitely need multiple therapies. In these patients, they are very prone to iron deficiency, and they should be on really long-term oral supplement of iron replacement. When there is a lady with heavy menstrual bleed and type 3 von Willebrand disease, a multidisciplinary approach is always required because they are not going to ever get control. They are not going to be happy. So there has to be joint efforts from the OBGYN team and the hematology team. The use of intrauterine device with hormones should be very carefully done in the setting of whether the lady wants pregnancy, doesn't want pregnancy, because intrauterine device with hormones, the incidence of secondary infertility is fairly high, and they may have real issues with getting pregnant once these episodes are over. The treatment of menstrual pain, management of endometriosis and polycystic ovary has to be kept in mind. Always it is important that every bleed in a congenital bleeding disorder person is not because of the bleeding disorder. Make sure there is no local uterine or pelvic pathology. A regular examination by OBGYN team and a regular ultrasound at least once in a year is required in patients with heavy menstrual bleeds. Once the person has crossed age of 35 years, we have to keep in mind the other adverse effects because of hormones leading to endometrial hyperplasia, malignancies, especially in patients who have polycystic ovarian disease, who have high body mass index and obesities, and diabetes and hypertension. These 3-4 things which are controllable, we must be very aggressive in managing diabetes, hypertension, obesity, and polycystic ovarian disease, because unless you tackle them, the bleeding keeps worsening despite trying to do everything, and patient may land up with an early hysterectomy rather than late hysterectomy. Coming to the pregnancy, there are 3 issues when a pregnant lady, a von Willebrand lady wants to conceive pregnancy. You have to really have a good counseling with the family and the patient. There are the issues with anesthesia, route of delivery, and postpartum management. Majority of the deliveries, whenever required anesthesia, are under neuraxial anesthesia, either epidural or spinal anesthesia. When you are giving a neuraxial anesthesia, you should maintain the von Willebrand Rickoff assay or factor VIII assay between 50 to 150 IU per DL. This is like a small surgical procedure because you are going to use a needle. You may be expert in giving spinal or epidural anesthesia, but there could be a surgical bleed. And Surgical bleed in spinal region can be very, very catastrophic, and you have to maintain the level before you give spinal or epidural anesthesia. For general anesthesia, the recommendation is same. You maintain the level between 50 to 150 IU per DL and then start with the anesthesia. Because if we are choosing general anesthesia, obviously the delivery is going to be more complex, more complicated, and you may have a surgical intervention needed for the delivery. Now coming to the route of delivery. The route of delivery has to be decided by the OBGYN team as per the indication, stage, and at the what period of pregnancy weeks the delivery is occurring. Hematologist is just going to support the OBGYN decision. Forceps and vacuum deliveries are to be avoided because they can cause a surgical injury to the mother as well as to the child, and you do not want that. So generally the preferred route is normal per vaginal route. If there is any issue with the per vaginal delivery, better to do the LSCS because it is far more controlled surgery and far more controlled setting you can carry out the procedure. Von Willebrand disease should not impact the decision regards the route of delivery. The factor replacement has to be kept around 150 IU per DL. Always avoid levels to cross of factor VIII or Ricoff assay about 200 IU per DL. Because once you start crossing 200 IU per DL, there is an extreme increased risk of thrombosis. Pregnancy itself is a thrombogenic situation. Multiple pregnancies, twin pregnancies, pregnancies with preeclampsia, there is a very high risk of thrombosis in a postpartum period and immediate peripartum period. LSCS has to follow a major surgical replacement protocol during the surgery and till the wound healing is occurred. And these are the protocols recommended by this committee. So you can see the major surgery protocol, daily dose of 50 to 60 IU per kg of von Willebrand to maintain the factor VIII and Ricoff levels between 100 to 80 to 100%. And then to post-operatively maintain 50 units, there is a typo error, until the healing is complete, usually 5 to 10 days. Measuring plasma levels of factor VIII and Ricoff assay every 12 hours on day of surgery and then every 24 hours is mandatory. Because post-pregnancy, postpartum period is a completely dynamically different period than a non-pregnant person. We cannot have the same PK/PD of the von Willebrand factor that we are infused in a pregnant person and non-pregnant person is completely different. And a very strong recommendation is to use LMWH as a prophylaxis in patients with high risk of venous thrombosis. During the delivery and puerperium, daily dose of 50 IU per kg of von Willebrand factor to maintain levels around 50 IU per DL for 3 to 4 days. And 4 to 5 days is good enough because the placental area, the uterine area would have healed in 4 to 5 days time and you can stop the factor. All along, you continue tranexamic acid, IV or oral, whatever is available. Desmopressin is contraindicated. Desmopressin is not, injectable desmopressin is not routinely available, and nasal desmopressin has a very erratic course and we cannot depend on nasal desmopressin, but during pregnancy it is best to avoid desmopressin. In postpartum period, we have to keep levels up to 50 IU per DL for 7 to 10 days, and tranexamic acid is continued 3 times a day for 10 to 14 days. A normal breastfeeding can be immediately started for the child, and there is no contraindication to breastfeed the child. So there are a lot of remarks regarding pregnancy and delivery in this guideline statement. Individual risk assessment has to be performed. We cannot have a simple algorithm for delivery of a type 3 von Willebrand disease person. 10 persons will follow 10 different routes. And they strongly advocate, and which we also been doing, that as soon as 32, 34 weeks are over, we assess what is the factor VIII and von Willebrand activity. Because some rise in von Willebrand factor may happen even in type 3 patients, and you do not want to cross the 200 figure for the risk of thrombosis. Von Willebrand activity should be maintained around 50% while epidural is in place and at least 6 hours after removal of the epidural catheter. Von Willebrand levels in a postpartum hemorrhage have to be monitored. And von Willebrand activity, if there is a setting of PPH, you have to keep at around 150 IU per DL. With other monitoring of plasma fibrinogen, thrombin time, because they can land up with DIC in PPH, and you should not miss DIC in this setting. If there is an excessive bleeding post-delivery, it may not be only von Willebrand disease because you are maintaining levels. If the levels at around 150 IU per DL and patient is bleeding, there has to be some surgical cause. And as I said, the anesthetist and OBGYN decide the route of anesthesia and route of delivery. Strict monitoring of the levels are required for first 5 to 7 days, and immediate LMWH should be started for patients who are at thrombotic risk. And tranexamic acid is continued for 14 days. So in conclusion, to manage any lady who is diagnosed at 5 years, we have to counsel the family, the patient, that it's a long story, it is going to be a long affair, mentally prepare them. The female patients with type 3 von Willebrand disease is always a challenge. And a lot of individual variations needed in approach. No two type 3 von Willebrand disease patients behave in the same fashion. Von Willebrand type 3 should undergo delivery at a proper center where there is a proper setup. It can create a disaster and you may lose a life because of excessive postpartum hemorrhage. And other causes of bleeding post-op should not be missed. Here I would add, because majority of the now factor is coming from the government setup. And generally I have been seeing that there is a tendency to procure 100% recombinant factor. If you procure 100% recombinant factor, you will not be able to treat your von Willebrand patients. We must have some von Willebrand containing factor, and at least substantial amount should be made available for these patients, and von Willebrand containing factor should be available. Recently, Ms. Chandrakala has, we had discussed this with Chandrakala, we have put one girl on low dose Hemlibra, 3 milligram per kg once a month. She has had last 6 months, and really it has worked wonders. And she was a heavy menstrual. She has required so far around every menstrual cycle, she used to end up having at least 2 or 3 transfusions. She's a 15-year-old girl now. She attained menarche 8 months back. First 2-3 months were horrible. We could get some compassionate Hemlibra, and we don't know how this Hemlibra will change the course in type 3 von Willebrand disease. But theoretically, I feel it should work. If it is working in severe hemophilia A without inhibitors and with inhibitors, I don't see any reason why it should not work in type 3 von Willebrand. Thanks for your kind attention. Thank you, Chandrakala and Farah.
Thank you, sir, for a wonderful lecture and sharing your experience on a very really topic and really difficult topic, and difficult in the clinical management actually. So when the patient comes and bleeding, actually it becomes very difficult because they require transfusion after transfusion. So we have few questions, sir. One, first we'll take up from Dr. Neeraj questions. He's asking, how do you calculate the increment after CFC replacement in VWD? And what is the half-life generally you consider? And can factor VIII be used as a surrogate marker for VWF?
We are using factor VIII as a surrogate marker for when we are operating for type 2B. And because we don't have multimer analysis done, and we also monitor the platelet count. But primary monitoring is done with factor VIII assay for this type 2B.
So how do you calculate the factor replacement, CFC replacement? Do you calculate on the factor VIII? Because some of the factors has got 1:2, one of them has got, some of them has 1:1 proportion. So how do you calculate, sir?
No, if you saw my slide, you should calculate, because every factor bottle, they are given von Willebrand activity. So you should start with 40 to 80 units per kg. So you calculate with that, and then you will see that we have done this exercise, and generally you don't cross the factor VIII levels above 200%. And you have to keep in mind what is the blood group. What is the blood group? Very important.
And he asked the same thing again regarding what you just mentioned, the surgical management of type 2B or platelet type VWD when molecular report is not available. So how do you manage that? What you just covered that?
Yeah.
So we have other questions. Dr. Subhashish, the stats say prevalence of VWD is high. Why NHR data is so low?
See, majority of them, Subhashish, the von Willebrand disease is missed. See, the commonest type of bleeding is type 1 von Willebrand disease. And it may be passed as a minor bleed. And that's why we do not have much data. And another thing, in our country, I don't know how many, I don't think more than 10 labs are totally geared up to make a diagnosis of von Willebrand disease. It's a lack of diagnosis also. And I think that is the major reason why we have not reported much von Willebrand disease in our NHR with HFI.
The next question is, can VWD patient use factor 8 or vice versa? Can a PWH use hemate P factor?
See, hemophilia A patient can use von Willebrand containing factor 8, but von Willebrand patient should not use pure factor 8. If you use high purity plasma derived product which may not have von Willebrand factor, will be useless for a patient with von Willebrand. Intermediate purity von Willebrand can be used by both. A recombinant factor 8 will be only used by hemophilia A patient. It is of no use to von Willebrand patient. And now we have recombinant von Willebrand factor, which is of no use to hemophilia A patients.
So it's regarding the desmopressin, sir. This is from Dr. Mona. The nasal spray for desmopressin available in the market is Minrin that has got 0.1 milligram ml concentration. So how do you use in VWD type 1 actually?
We don't use. We did a long back and we have published that data. It is extremely erratic. The absorption is extremely erratic. When you are especially doing a small surgical procedure, you can't keep waiting for the factor access to come, even say for simple dental extraction. You can't wait for 4-5 hours to get this nasal desmopressin to act. Injectable desmopressin is far more predictable. But for last 17-18 years, for some reason, injectable desmopressin is not available. So if we have a minor surgery or a major surgery, we purely rely on von Willebrand containing factor, and we not use desmopressin for last 16-17 years.
Chandrakala, can I?
Yes, sir.
Sure,
Yes.
sure.
Yes, sir.
See, in nasal desmopressin, nasal spray desmopressin is very useful in women who have menorrhagia. So what I normally tell them is you take the tranexamic acid. If they don't respond well, you can actually tell them the day before, if their periods are normal, the day before surgery, take a nasal spray, one spray in each nostril, twice a day or thrice a day for 5 days during the period. After that, stop it. So the menorrhagia seems to be coming well under control with nasal spray. Otherwise, nasal spray is not much useful in many other situations, except in patients with menorrhagia and they bleed in their periods.
Sir, continuing that answer, sir, the spray available in India is the concentration is very low, but the concentration it's recommended for the VWD is 150 microgram per spray should be there.
Correct.
So do you use the whatever is available in India that you use, sir?
That's what we use. That's what we do. You just take the day before surgery, the day before periods. If she knows that she's going to get the day period on that particular day, you start the prophylaxis with that nasal spray twice or thrice a day, and then you continue till the end of period, and then you stop it. Otherwise, what happens also, they develop tachyphylaxis with that spray.
Yes.
So you just have to use it. It will not help too much, but many people say that it has been useful in the sense that their periods have been near normal, if not heavy.
Yes.
But you also use tranexamic acid with
that. Yeah.
Or would you do the levels before the surgery, Cecil, if it's a minor surgery? Factor 8 and Ricof acid?
No.
So we'll take one more last question. Treatment of a young girl with heavy menstrual bleeding wants to conceive. So how will you manage? That's actually they want to know. Dr. Mustafa Karim. Yeah.
See, if they want to conceive, I showed it. We should avoid all hormonal therapies. We cannot use IUD with hormones. So we are left with tranexamic acid and factor. So if there is a heavy menstrual bleed, I would control this menstrual period with tranexamic acid 25 milligram per kg thrice a day for 5 to 7 days and give on-demand factor. And tell the couple to plan the pregnancy. And as soon as the lady becomes pregnant, at least the menorrhagia issue is taken care of. I would go that way.
So the other issues are we always tell them to continue OC pills is because of the ovarian hemorrhage and they'll end up with hemoperitoneum. So it's not only to prevent the menorrhagia, it's also to prevent the hemoperitoneum. We get patients in shock with hemoperitoneum.
Correct.
So it's always patients need to continue OC pills till they conceive or they plan for pregnancy. So that's an advantage. Otherwise, it causes for recurrent ovarian hemorrhage and fibrosis. And the fertility issues also will happen. So that is an added advantage of continuing the OC pills.
In fact, if in the recommendation also you saw, they have said you should use oral contraceptive pills from the angle of menstrual pain and ovarian cysts.
Yeah.
I showed in that recommendations.
Yes,
But
sir.
when the lady wants pregnancy, you will have to take off OC pills.
Yes, yes.
And
yes.
then you have to cover this way and plan accordingly.
Another thing which is of management issue, majority of the gynecologists do not know how to manage menorrhagia and bleed in von Willebrand's disease, or for that matter, any of the rarer bleeding disorders. So what what I've always suggested to our gynecologists is, if there is normal, to control the normal menorrhagia, start with a progesterone only tablet twice a day or thrice a day, and then manage with maintenance 1 tablet. Then they have a withdrawal bleed. Of course, you have to give, like Shashi said, you have to give a lot of iron, oral iron or IV and whatever it is, to see that their bleeding is. Once they continue that for say 8 to 10 months, you have to change it over to OCP, which contains estrogen and progesterone to prevent breakthrough bleed. Then you allow the endometrium to grow a little bit, and then again you switch back to progesterone. So you have to have a cycle between the pure progesterone alone with a couple of months, 2-3 months with estrogen progesterone combination, again shift back to progesterone. Then only otherwise they'll have a lot of breakthrough bleeding and becomes difficult to control the bleeding in some women.
See, one patient, very affording patient, now progesterone depot preparations are available. You just give a shot of injection factor, maintain the level at around 20 to 30%, and give an intramuscular injection of this progesterone depot. And it roughly works for 6 months. Roughly works for 6 months. And that has shown to reduce the infertility problems in patients with VWD or any bleeding disorder for that matter. But it is expensive. It is expensive.
You can also intrauterine device, no? I mean, that's
But
what
then
it's called.
intrauterine device in a nulliparous woman will be dangerous.
Nulliparous, yeah.
Yes,
It becomes dangerous, you know.
Yeah, nobody.
We had a girl, we waited till age of 18, and at age of 18 with her consent, we did a hysterectomy. There was we had a lawyers from both sides, we had a formal contract done. Because thrice we lost her because of her hemorrhagic shock. And she was requiring very high dosages of hormones to maintain or stop her periods, and she started getting complications of that.
Yes. Madam, anything, madam, any comments, madam?
No, that only I just wanted to say, what would be your choice of the oral OC pill that you would use?
So progesterone alone will be the first choice. And we also do switch between progesterone alone. After 6-7 months, we'll switch over to estrogen, progesterone, again come back, then withdraw the hormones, support with tranexamic acid and factor concentrates, and try to let the lady plan pregnancy. As soon as she becomes pregnant, in fact, we have a sigh of relief, you know. You actually have a sigh of relief because now...
No, but Shashi, how will they become pregnant if they're on the pill?
No, you stop them. You stop them and support with tranexamic acid, I said.
Yeah.
You stop the OC pills after a cycle. So you have allowed endometrial proliferation to occur. Then you withdraw. There are no OC pills. You just support with tranexamic acid and factor. And hope that rapidly, say in 6 months' time, they conceive.
Yeah.